Today, I'm in good company with Joanna Griffiths, the visionary founder and CEO of Knix, one of Canada's most influential consumer brands and a global leader in intimate apparel and body-positive innovation. Joanna has redefined an entire industry through her commitment to authenticity, representation, and empowering people to feel comfortable in their own skin. Under her leadership, Knix grew from a startup to a global powerhouse, expanded into new categories, and launched Minted, its new men's line built around comfort and confidence. Joanna, your leadership has changed how millions of people think about their bodies and themselves. So it's a true pleasure to have you on In Good Company. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I want to start off by saying, Knix is truly an innovator in the space, not only in the apparel and intimate apparel space, but in the consumer space. So you built this company from the ground up into one of Canada's now most recognizable brands. And I want to, take a look back to the earlier days. What was kind of the initial vision for the company?
Yeah, I think like so many founders, I had roughly an idea of what I was doing, but no super clear plan. I think when I started working on the concept for Knix and started, really thinking seriously about what it is that we could do and how I wanted to build a different kind of brand, it was in 2012. So, the height of the Victoria's Secret fashion
Right.
show and, sort of pre-visual social media, meaning like Instagram was just starting to take off, but it
Yeah.
hadn't really taken off yet. And so we were still living in this world of advertising and marketing where it was a very singular view or message that was put out into the world. And a lot of it, I think, especially as a woman who had grown up, reading magazines and following the media and following these brands, I really saw the opportunity to create a different sort of brand and to celebrate people for exactly who they were. And I think the nature of the product that we were creating, this leak-proof underwear product, which is also known as period underwear, it didn't exist back then. And so we had this big challenge of how do you get people to talk to you about something that's extremely intimate, that they often don't feel comfortable saying out loud, that they don't talk to their friends about or their doctors or their family. And the way to do that, I think, was to build a brand and build a company that really represented them and celebrated them for who they were. And that was created in conjunction with the consumer instead of kind of just on behalf of them.
Right.
And so that was how we started. And I wish I wish I could say that I had this mastermind plan, but I didn't. A lot of the decisions we made were just following instincts and gut and,
Yeah.
Seeing how good the product was in all different bodies. And so, feeling like we should showcase that because I had never really seen products on different body sizes before. And then getting really positive response along the way and continuing to lean more and more into that piece that was working.
Right. 2012 versus 2025. That is a whole different universe, hey? And talk about TikTok, Instagram, what Instagram is now, short form content. It's like anybody can be a creator. And I think you really lean into that.
Yeah, it's been what we've been doing for a long time. And it's funny. I feel like we were doing UGC or user generated content before that even existed
Right.
as a concept. And we had, ambassadors, also known as like influencers, before that was truly even something that was talked about as a potential career path or profession. So I think a lot of what we were doing and continue to do was at the forefront of sort of how marketing is done today.
Yeah.
And then now I think, the challenge that we're always faced with is that balance of like continuing to evolve versus staying true to your roots. And when everything around you starts to look the same, how do you make sure that like you are still showing up authentically and distinctly? So it's been, all problems, candidly, Jay, I never thought that I would have. Like, I never
Right.
thought that there would be a world in which so many brands were showcasing all sorts of different people in their campaigns, or that so many brands would be embracing this form of marketing. And so it feels very full circle and also rewarding to see how far we've come, both within Knix and more broadly speaking.
Well, you and your company are definitely trailblazers in that regard. Like I think I've been aware of Knix just either through you or friends or through the marketing space for 5, 6, 7 years now. And I remember you were not only were you having models of all shapes and sizes and backgrounds, but you were having people I knew, who were just friends or just people who were customers. And I remember one thing, and this could be incorrect, but I
Yeah.
do remember that you don't really retouch anything on your
Mm.
campaigns. Of course, you have to, make it look nice and make it look, the filtering, but not anyone's bodies. Is that still correct?
Yeah. So for a very long time, we did absolutely no retouching, and we still do that on certain campaigns. Like, if we've had swim campaigns in the past that we've launched like live on location, where we're literally taking the photo and then 10 minutes later putting it out in the email and putting it on the website.
Wow.
And so in those cases, definitely lean into this like live and retouch kind of model. We do some retouching now, as we are like further along, I would say,
Yeah.
but it's not to change somebody's body per se. It's um, we deal with like sensitive subject matters, and so
Right.
sometimes it like, to blur a nipple or like,
Right.
what I mean?
It's just
Just
like
like these,
necessary for the pick.
yeah, exactly
Yeah.
necessary, and to meet clearances as well. So,
I think
yeah,
that's so cool though, because if you look at, obviously back in 2012, the brands then, but even brands now who are putting these campaigns out, it could be like beyond human recognition, some of
yes,
the pictures. So yeah, I think it's a testament to your brand's authenticity, but also a testament to other brands' just total, you know, incomprehensible inauthenticity.
yeah. No, I know. Listen, and I think sometimes it's a balancing act for us. Like, we've worked with lots of different bigger names and celebrities over the years, and oftentimes there's like an agreement in their contract that they get to use their retoucher and they get sign off on
Right.
images. And so we've had these conversations in house where we'll see a first pass back and we'll be like, we cannot air this photo. Do you know what I mean? Because it
Yeah.
looks so distinctly different from something we would normally show. But I understand it in some ways too, especially I think for bigger name celebrities. We live in a very judgmental culture,
Yeah.
where people do get picked apart,
Yeah.
and so I think there's a certain aspect of people protecting themselves in that nature too.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
everyone, and especially when you're online or a social media personality, or, I think there's an element of going too far with it. But then I
Yes.
also appreciate, like, you want to look good. You want to look your best. You want to feel good about what's going out there. Even in my little podcast here, my first one, I had two cameras and it was on this side of my face. And I was like, never again will we use that. This side of the face is off duty for the foreseeable future.
That's so funny that you figured out your side. I don't know what mine is yet, but I know I have one. And
Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
every time I go to do a podcast, I'm like, is this the side or is that the side? And I
Well,
can't figure it out. So I understand.
I think you have all great sides, Joanna. But I feel like everyone's eyes see different things. It's
Mm,
like some people would be like, "Oh, that's the best side," or the other side. I think it's interesting how it's all perspective at the end of the day.
yes. Yes. Agreed. Agreed.
So I want to know, I want to hear about Minted, of course, which is
Mhm.
brand new and it's your men's line. So talk to me about Minted first.
Yeah. So I think, we've thought long and hard about when the right time would be to go into men's. And if we were to do it, how would we do it? I think a lot of the qualities and properties that we've brought into women's intimate apparel, and now that we do activewear and other categories as well, we've been asked quite consistently over the years when we're going to do men's. And, it's always with any company as you're building, there's always these decision points of, how do you say yes to the right things and say no to the right things and find that journey? So for us, it started, we developed a really great product actually for a brand that's part of the broader kind of parent company that I sold to a couple years ago. And I saw this product and it was so much better than anything I'd seen on the market. And so that kind of pulled on a string. And we are like, okay, well, maybe there is something here. why don't we just give ourselves the flexibility to go work on a few other products and see if we could make something that we feel like is distinctly different and better, without the pressure of launching a brand or doing anything with it. And so that's what we did. And then the product ended up being really good. And then I think the next decision point was, is this Knix Men or is it a separate brand?
Right.
But we've become so synonymous with women's health over the years that it felt hard to imagine bringing a brand to market and maintain that part of us.
Yeah.
And so we opted to create a new brand, and through that has come Minted, which launched about 2 weeks ago and has been a really fun project to work on, and is a whole new learning journey for us, I would say, at Knix. You were
Amazing.
saying you couldn't come to our party, and it's like
I
even
know.
inviting men to a party. Like I was like, who are the men?
I know,
Like,
right?
we're so used to inviting women to our events. And so that was also an interest. Like, it's just been such an interesting learning experience thus far.
Well, we'll have many more parties to come, Joanna.
Exactly, exactly,
But I
exactly.
want to know, like, end to end, I mean, from conception to launch, how long has it been building that brand?
So the first time we talked about creating a men's brand was on May 2nd of 2013, which was the day I launched Knix. So literally that night, my husband and I went out for my now husband, we weren't married at the time, went out for a drink and we are like, oh, should we do men's? And then I think it's been more seriously floated around, let's call it, for the past 5. And then we've worked on it for the last 2 to 3.
Amazing. And then
Yeah.
launched 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly.
I want to
Exactly.
talk about the campaign because I thought this campaign was brilliant. And, it touches on what we were talking about engaging, you know, celebrities, public figures
Yeah.
in campaigns, which is tried and true. And it's always helpful. It's always great to have a spokesperson. But for your launch, correct me if I'm wrong, you had like your husband, you had friends, you had just regular people in this campaign.
Yeah. So we were pretty open that we worked to find a celebrity partner for about the last 9 months. So the basically once we had a name and we had a launch date, we were like, okay, let's go find someone to help us launch this brand with. Um, and it's a balancing act because I really believe that the battle for attention right now has never been higher. And
Yeah,
it's incredibly hard to break through all the noise and all the content that we get served every minute and every second of every day. And so we went out to a few different folks on the celebrity side. We also had a unique challenge because we really wanted to launch the brand in a way that felt authentic to our Knix community, with the thesis that they're probably going to be our first customers
yeah,
buying for the men in their lives.
yeah,
And so we had a very specific brief of the kind of male celebrity that we wanted. And we actually wanted a male celebrity that would greatly appeal to women, but not be a turnoff to men.
right.
And so you start kind of like narrowing down and down and down of what that looks like. And we went out to a few different folks and got close on a number of occasions. And it was, gosh, probably 8 weeks ago. I was in Iceland for a friend's wedding, and we'd just gotten a no from another partner we thought was going to work. And the panic button set in, Jay. I was like, we're launching this brand in 8 weeks. Like, we actually can't go out to anybody else. We can't mess around.
Right.
And then a teammate of mine was like, well, what if we kind of played up on these celebrity names and casted people from the Knix community instead? So it's
I
like,
love
we might
that.
not have the Ryan, but we have a Ryan. And we might not have, like just insert names here.
No David Guetta, but you have Dave, your
Exactly,
husband.
exactly, exactly. And so that's the approach we took. And honestly, for me, it was so special to make that campaign because obviously my husband's in it, but our chief product officer and his partner are in it, and they've worked at Knix for the last 7 years.
Amazing.
Our head designer was in it with her partner Rishi, and she's also been at Knix for 8 years. So it was like just really beautiful to see all these people that have been such a big part of building the Knix brand, and then have them be in the spotlight for the first time
Yeah.
under this new lens that is Minted. And yeah, I mean, I loved it. I thought it was really special and sweet, and our audience loved it too.
That's great.
Yeah, which is really good.
There'll be
Yeah.
lots of minted in the stockings this Christmas.
Listen, that's the goal. That's the hope. Yeah.
So you talked about how you building Minted, but also, of course, your work with Knix, you sold the company or you
I did.
sold the majority stake in the
Hmm.
business
That's
and
right.
you remain CEO. So the
Yes.
strategy and the direction, the vision is still yours. And obviously you're the founder. But I want to know how that transition has been. Has it, I mean,
Mhm.
I'm sure you sold to an amazing partner who, works and has confidence in you, but I want to know about that change of being the sole proprietor to then being, the CEO, founder, and minority partner.
Yeah, it's been an interesting evolution. And I think, part of this came down to the idea that I wasn't actually looking to sell the business when we sold. And so I had a lot of friends who were also selling their companies at a very similar moment. I'm in a forum group with a bunch of other Canadian entrepreneurs. And I think there were 7 of us in our group, and 5 of us sold our businesses all within the same year. So this interesting chapter, yeah, and we give each other, advice and help as we're navigating through these like very intense, large scale negotiations. And I remember when it came time to talk about my situation, I was like, I want to stay for as long as possible and I want to own as much of the business as I can. And they're like, Joanna, it doesn't sound like you actually want to sell this company compared to how some of them were feeling. Some of them, one of them was like, I'm done the day that the ink gets signed and I like never want to look back. It was just very different. And so I I think I structured a pretty unique deal insofar as I still own 20% of the company. And a big part for both of us, honestly, was that I stayed.
Yeah,
So
of
I wanted to
course.
stay and they wanted me to stay. Um, and it's been an interesting, it's now been just over 3 years. So it's wild to see how quickly time passes. And I think I picked a good partner that gives us a lot of autonomy and space, which is good. But at the end of the day, there are always going to be some decisions that I used to make pretty independently or with the support of my board, who were all investors in Knix, but had like big belief and conviction in me and my instincts. And I think the biggest piece I recognize now is like Knix is one part of a much bigger organization. And
Right.
so when they're making decisions, they're not just thinking about us, they're thinking about the global broader
Right.
organization.
The group of
And so
businesses.
the group of businesses. That's right. It's not just about us anymore. It's
Yeah.
about us in conjunction with everybody else. And so that's been a bit of an adjustment, I would say. Um, but I believe most businesses do their best work when they're operating with some kind of restraint.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's almost been, it takes a bit of the pressure off for me when I have another partner who's kind of like guiding what those restraints should be.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, when you make decisions like, should we launch in a new market or should we do a men's brand or should we like go into this category, you're kind of making them on your own with your
Yeah.
team. And so it's been nice to have a sounding board for some of those bigger decisions.
Yeah. I mean, it's truly a masterclass, I think, in the stake and ownership stake and selling and remaining a CEO. I remember when you sold it, which was for north of $300 million, I will say. And I was like, this is unbelievably impressive. And I think you were probably like the first person I mean, I'm 26, so I've, lots of my
Yeah.
friends are startups or they're in their careers, mid-management. But when I saw that news come through, I was like, damn, good for Joanna. It's amazing. And the success that you have accomplished through this company, but all of your other ventures are really amazing. And so it's hats off to you. You're a great inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you. I think most people were surprised to see me still work as hard like that. Like
Right.
I remember 6 months in, even a year in, it's so funny when you have a big moment like this. Like even the next day, I think I was inundated with messages of people being like, "What are you going to do next?"
You're like,
And it's like
this.
I was like, first of all, I'm still doing this.
Yeah,
And then even if I wasn't still doing this, I don't think we give people the permission to take a pause
ever.
and ever. And so after a huge life journey like this one that I've been on, like you do need a pause,
Yeah.
right? I have similar friends who one of them just announced last week, I think, that they're transitioning out of their CEO seat, and she's been building for 13 years too.
Lexi.
And the overwhelming sense, it's Lexi,
Yeah.
and the overwhelming sense, like, can't wait to see what you do next. Like, what's next? And it's like, this woman just built a business for
Yeah.
13 years. She has 4 kids. Like, I hope she takes a nap, and I
Totally.
hope she like
A
gives herself
break is
permission.
well deserved in this. Yeah.
Yeah, to just to really pause and reflect. And I think also, and I get encouraged to do this, and I'm not the best at it, so I'm maybe giving myself advice here, um, to reflect, like to actually like take a minute and sit with what that chapter was and what you learned from it, and
Yeah.
feel proud. Because when we just go through the motions, I'm guilty of this too. You don't necessarily like register the growth as it's happening,
Totally.
or register the learnings. Does that make sense?
100%. And I was talking about this. I think I was talking about this with Cheryl Hickey on our episode, but we were saying how, you're just flying through life, like blazing through life, taking no prisoners and just doing the best you can. And you don't stop and smell the roses, to
Yeah.
cliche it up. But I think, I think now something for me that I've really recognized is like 5 years ago, if I thought about where I want to be, it is right where I am. And
Mm,
so it's important to celebrate that and not be too hot to trot to the next thing, the next big win, the next big project.
yeah. Yeah.
And so it's a good reminder.
Yeah. That's a great reminder. Exactly.
But I think also with your experience and particularly with you selling the business and remaining as CEO, it's another great testament to your authenticity and your alignment to the brand. Like you really are the face of the company. Do you feel like that's pressureful, or do you think that's I'm sure it's an honor, but it must guide you in some way?
Yeah, I think it's a role that I've like leaned in and out of over the last 12 or 13 years. I go through phases where I'm more comfortable with it, and then phases where maybe I lean back a bit. I think candidly, it really started to happen during COVID because everything was remote and we couldn't, there was no one else. Does that make sense? Like it's
Yeah.
like someone had to be really show up and lead both internally and externally. And that started for me to become more comfortable. And the other thing I've done for most of our big campaigns, so whether it was, talking about pregnancy loss and fertility or postpartum experience and that journey, if I ever asked our community to share their personal stories through Knix, and I had my own personal story, I felt a large sense of responsibility to be included as one of the many,
Yeah.
um, instead of asking other people to be brave on our behalf, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so through that, I've become more comfortable. But there is pressure, definitely. There is pressure.
Hey guys, I want to talk to you about a Canadian brand near and dear to my heart, Kits Eye Care. They're the best. These are my Dodger sport glasses from Kits. I wear them every single day. They were $78 and they offer prescriptions. They direct bill your insurance. Best part of all, they're a Canadian born and bred brand out of Vancouver, BC, my hometown. I love them so much, and sunglasses too. I feel like you are someone also who, I don't want to speak for you, but from what I see, you're someone who really rolls with a pack of people. And many of them are your customers and your team members, your staff, like your board you talk about. And I think Knix has such an incredible community. Like it really is a brand that represents its community. So tell me about like having that community and the powerful emotive connection between the brand and its customers.
That part has been with me, I'd say, since the first day. And I think part of it was working on this idea while at business school. And so being surrounded by so many people that were interested in helping and were willing to, like, chat with me about it. I never felt like I was building on an island. I always felt like I was building in conjunction with others.
Yeah.
And then I think a big part of it was I honestly, had no experience doing what I was doing, which I look at now, and obviously I've been doing this for a long time now, but I never built a physical product before. I knew nothing about apparel. I didn't know how to sew. I'd never managed people before, really.
Right.
So all of these things I really was learning on the go. And so I think through that, I always approached it like, well, let's just ask people what they want and let's just talk to them about that.
It's
And that
refreshing.
it was by necessity, but I think it led to like a very customer first approach to
Right.
building that if you had all the answers, you might not feel like you needed to do that. Even though I think now what we're seeing is like culture is changing so quickly. Even our lives are changing so quickly, how we're
Yeah.
living, what we care about, what we can afford or not with like different financial kind of ebbs and flows, that I think any company that hasn't remained close to their customers is struggling right now.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's
but no,
obvious.
it is obvious. It becomes obvious. That's right. And you have lots of friends too. I see you too. You've got like it's just life is more fun when you do it with other people.
Totally.
I think that's a big
I want
part
to
of it.
know if you started your business with your friends or did you
I
hire
did.
your friends?
Oh, I did not start my business with my
Yeah.
friends or my husband. I've hired people along the way
And they
that
become great friends. Yeah.
yes,
Because it's
yeah.
interesting. I mean, I'm someone, I mean, of course, the people that you work with naturally become your friends and you become, colloquial with them. But I don't really like to work with friends or family. I just like to keep it kind of separate.
I've gone through those chapters too. I think that's an interesting one. In the beginning, I tried to work with friends and it often didn't work out.
Yeah.
And so I took like a long pause. I think Dave, my husband, joining the business, which he did in 2017, 2018, was my first experiment with someone obviously very close to me.
Yeah.
And we did that as a 6-month pilot. It worked really well for us, but he had an out. Like if it didn't work, he
Of
could go back to
course.
his job in advertising. And it was like, no harm, no foul here. And then I guess a year and a half ago, I hired my absolute like lifetime best friend to come work at Knix. And, we were like high school choir nerds together. We
My
went to like,
gosh.
we were maid of honors in each other's weddings. We went to business school together. We had kids together. We did everything. Um, and we had talked about working together for quite a long time, but I didn't feel ready.
Yeah.
Um, I do think I think you have to really work with a lot of different people and then learn to understand what it means to work with someone that you're friends with and make sure that they're the right person for you to
Totally.
work with. Does
I
that make sense? Yeah.
100%. I
Yeah.
also feel like with friends and working with friends, it's different when it's an established business. Like you had a
Exactly.
well established your business by the time Dave came on board, or obviously your friend recently joining the team. So it's like you built the business, you went through all the big questions, all the big, transformations that needed to happen at the time. And it's, I think, in startup mode, you kind of got to blaze through that trail by yourself.
It's true. It's true. It's always a big debate with founders is are you better off by yourself or with someone else?
Yeah. It's a
And
catch 22.
there's no perfect answer. I think everyone who's built on their own wishes that they had a co-founder or friend along the way, and everyone who had co-founders or friends kind of looks at solo founders and has a little bit of envy, I would say, about the autonomy to kind of make the decisions on your own. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I feel like Knix too has become so much more than just a product. Like
Mhm.
it's, and many products. But what does it mean to you to be leading a company that is more than just a product and that really has become a cultural force?
Yeah, I think honestly that's the only reason why I've made it this far is because I made that decision very early on in our journey to attach the company to something so much bigger than selling underwear. And so from the very early days, we've taken that approach. Um, and it's been a core part of like what we're building. Every town hall, we kick it off by showing how we lived our values the previous month. Every board meeting for the last 10 years, I've started without we getting into financial performance, getting into our impact pillars and the impact that we've had. And so it's the lens that we look at pretty much everything we do through. So it's become very core to who I am and who the business is. And I don't know if I would have made it if it was just about selling underwear. I just think that we all crave like connection and meaning and purpose,
The
and you have to work so
mission.
hard and mission, and you have to work so hard to build anything. So if you're
Yeah.
going to build something, why not do it in a way that aligns with your values and the impact you want to have in the world?
Yeah.
Um,
I feel
yeah,
like
there is pressure though.
totally. I can imagine it's immense pressure. I really have wanted this podcast to be kind of like the social capitalism podcast of record for Canada. And that's why you were one of the first people that came to mind to talk to, because you really have built a business that's rooted in social purpose and for, doing well in business and doing good for a community go hand in hand and are mutually
Yeah.
inclusive versus exclusive. So I'm really interested to know if, of course, I want to know what your biggest struggle, if you have a singular biggest struggle in the last, decade or beyond is, but also like, have you ever been in a position where you have seen, okay, this, I'm going to have a major revenue opportunity, but it might harm our community or it might
Oh,
not be the best for our customers, and how you went over that bridge?
yeah, I definitely have. I think it's interesting if you look at what happens in consumer brands more broadly speaking, and in the fashion and apparel landscape, but I'd say consumer more broadly. Oftentimes you have legacy brands who choose to do collaborations with kind of like cool upstart companies, right?
Yeah.
So, where they hope to borrow a little bit of their cachet or their credibility around whatever it is that this like new company is doing differently. And so we got approached numerous times along the way, but I'd say the inbound really picked up like 2018, 2019, and 2020 by some huge legacy partners that wanted to do collaborations with us. And we said no to a couple that I think, one of them was potentially worth nine figures a year, so over 100 million in revenue a
Wow.
year. And it just felt too risky for us as a brand. Another one wouldn't have been as big, but they didn't carry the size range that our customers were used to looking for, and they don't have mirrors in the dressing rooms.
Mm,
And so, like, how is this going to work if you can't expect someone to feel comfortable enough in their bra and underwear to walk out into a fitting room with like
right.
30 people. And so we said no to that one unless they wanted to put mirrors in the fitting rooms and they would expand their sizing. And I'm sure they were like, who does this brand think that they are? But it was really important for us to stay true to what we were building.
Yeah,
So definitely it's and it is hard. Like I want to keep growing the business. I want to always be moving forward. And revenue growth is a big part of that.
of course.
It's like what fuels the engine, right?
Of
So
course.
um, I think my instinct in those moments has always been like, this isn't it. But then it takes like a couple of weeks to really like sit with it and,
Yeah.
you know, be comfortable making the call.
And so do you think that would be one of those, that experience be one of the biggest struggles, or what's a hurdle you can recall?
I think that was comes back to choices, and every company is just a series of choices that you make, and they either lead you on like the right path or the wrong path, right? Or you stay in the middle. And so I
Yeah.
think that those were a series of choices that I made that maybe others would have done differently. And
Yeah.
it's hard to say where we would have netted out if we did or we didn't do them.
And I mean, you're the
So
founder and it's your baby, like
yes,
this
I
business. So
know.
it's
I
just,
know.
it's like you are the best person to be in that situation, I'm sure, because a corporate, someone you bring in to lead the company, or someone from a other legacy brand might have been like, we are going full throttle ahead on this.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, talk about, you just gave the example of when you were 21 versus looking at where you are now. It's the same thing. Like if you told me when I started Knix that these kinds of other brands would be wanting to work with us, I just wouldn't believe it. It
Right.
wouldn't have been something I thought was possible. So there's been a lot of times where I've looked to make decisions and I've had to ask, like, would this feed my ego or would this feed the business? And, the same thing was true of raising money as well. Like, am I doing this because I feel like I like have to like prove to other people that I've come so far, or am I doing this because it's what the business needs?
Yeah.
Um, and I'm a really big fan of a piece of paper and putting like a line down the middle and just
Pros and
writing
cons.
like the pros and cons.
I love it.
And then challenge, I think honestly, it's just we sell so much online and the marketing landscape is changing like every 6 months and
Right.
algorithms change and all these different things change. And so that has candidly been the biggest challenge for us is that what worked 3 months ago, 6 months ago doesn't necessarily work today.
Yeah.
And so you're constantly like having to reinvent on the like media performance side of things, which it's just a grind. It's
Yeah.
not like fun work. It's not sexy work. Do you know what I mean? It's not
Yeah.
like mission work. It's just like a
Can be
grind. And
frustrating.
yeah, I think it keeps you on your toes, but it's interesting. Like I've never, over the last 13 years, I've never felt like a year was easy.
Right.
Uh, and I think that says something
Yeah. Well,
that
I just think you can't even plan a year out anymore. Of course you
no,
do, but
no,
it's hard because things just change and you have to pivot. People ask me, and someone who's
yes,
in the media marketing space, like, what do you want to do in 3, 4 years? I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to get through
yeah,
this next 10 months. And like,
yeah,
it's just,
that's right.
it's so unpredictable. And I also think this might be interesting for you as well as a consumer brand that's heavily in media and marketing in the marketing space. Like, it's hard to measure success with
Mhm.
campaigns, and because a lot of things are so anecdotal, and people can make claims about certain trends or certain, oh, we
Yeah.
have to go in this direction. So have you encountered that, like the difficulty of measuring success?
Constantly. I think anyone who, especially anyone who's driving a um, like digital first company or brand, they've made it so easy on the paid performance media side of things to measure effectiveness of these campaigns. Like
Yeah.
it's all trackable, there's data and what have you. So the like performance marketing side is very measurable and the brand side is completely intangible.
Yeah.
And I think people, we do everything that like we try to look at like brand lift studies and all these things. But to your point, it's like more what anecdotal and what comes up in conversations. And so it's hard, I think, to spend money on brand initiatives, which we do and we have and we will continue to. But when it's so hard to measure compared to
Yeah.
like, if I do this over here, I know I'm going to see if it worked or not.
Like cost per
Yeah.
dollar, you know, so interesting.
Yeah.
I want to know as well. I mean, you are definitely someone who walks the talk and has been such a proponent of lifting other women up and underserved communities. And you're absolutely a philanthropist. You've been so supportive of my initiatives, which I thank you so much. But I want to know how that journey has been for you. And is it through the business that you feel like you've had, a certain amount of success that you want to lift other women up, or is it founders, or is it all of the above?
Yeah, I think it goes back to my upbringing, honestly. So I both my grandfathers were ministers and missionaries. So I've come from a family and household that's like very rooted in community and service and giving back. Um, and oftentimes at the expense of sort of capitalism, right? Like it's like you're only as fortunate as your neighbor is. And so I think that has like shaped me greatly as a person.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think we started Knix always giving back, and we did it before we would really talk about it. Like I think my goal with the company was always let's do first and tell second instead of tell first and then do.
Yeah.
And so we've done that consistently over the years, and have really tried to ingrain giving back as part of like the core DNA as the company. And then for me personally, I mean, I honestly wish I could do more of it. It's just a matter of like time and bandwidth.
Yeah.
But I really believe that we need more strong founders coming out of Canada. I think it's like a uniquely brilliant and also challenging place to build. because you're often selling into the US market, and that
Yeah.
is a journey in and of itself. And I'm always been grateful for the people who made the time for me, and also acutely aware of where there were gaps where like I had nobody to talk to.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think it's those things in combination, I would say. But I'm excited as I have like more time on my hands to do more of it, because it's where I think I can have like a longer lasting impact.
Yeah. That's amazing. How do you
Mm.
feel like the tariffs and the US and the trade war has it affected your business and the direction?
It's affected some of the choices that we've made. So when we started the year, 90% of our goods were made in China and about half of our businesses in the US. So we were going from paying zero duties into the US to paying at one point, it was potentially 175%. So if we did nothing, it would have been a complete, I,
Catastrophic.
yeah, I think the team looked, if we did absolutely nothing, it was going to be a negative $40 million
Oh
impact on
my
our
God.
P&L. So like really serious kind of stakes here. I'd say fortunately, we've been working with our partners to diversify our supply chain. I think coming out of COVID, it felt really risky to be too centralized in any one country.
Right.
And so we've been working on some of these plans for a long time to have manufacturing partners and work with our existing partners to open facilities in new countries. So we just kicked that into gear,
Yeah.
and going back and forth on, do we have a US warehouse or not? And that decision got made for us. It's maybe something we would have waited another year for, but we were starting to open stores in the States again and have wholesale partnerships. So we knew we had to. But I think, look, I genuinely feel for any business owner and any founder, especially if they are operating in the retail landscape, because I just think it's been a rough 5 years.
Yeah.
And so the general sentiment I felt for myself, and I also felt for my fellow founder friends and CEOs, is, can we just get a break? Like, can we get
Break.
1 year without something,
Totally. I know. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine. And like think about small businesses as well.
Oh
It's
my goodness. No, it's
horrible.
terrifying, right? So I think some stability would be really nice. I know I'm craving it, but that doesn't seem to be the current landscape we're living in. So just keep on our toes.
Gotta keep on swimming.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like a lot of people, a lot of founders and innovators and startup people in Canada have been critical of the government and of, the nature of being an innovator in Canada. Do you have any thoughts about that? Do you think like things would be different if you were in a different country?
It's hard for me to be critical of Canada and what we've built here, because we have such an amazing Canadian business
Yeah,
and community here. And they really carry like the whole company. The fact that we're like have such a strong fan base and supportive group out of Canada. So it's that's something that I know if I built in the US, I wouldn't have necessarily have had that
right.
here. Right. And, then I'm banking on the fact, could I have recreated that in the United States? And there's a good chance I could have, but it's unclear if that would have worked or if it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah,
Um, I think that, if you follow the data and if you follow the trends, there is a lot of work that needs to be done to ensure that Canada is a force in and of itself.
hmm,
And I think we're so rich in so many ways. We're rich with natural resources. We're rich with talent. Some of the best developers in the world come out of Waterloo. We
yeah,
have amazing folks that like want to live here. They choose to live here because of how inclusive it is. And so I'm hopeful.
hmm,
And I do think sometimes it takes strong voices to criticize, but also show what's possible, so that we don't get too comfortable and kind of like sit on a back foot.
yeah,
And I think, people were critical before all the stuff happened. And then I think it just brought it to a melting point where it's like, we actually have to do something
yeah.
now.
There's no choice.
Like, there's no choice. There's no choice. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for entrepreneurs, particularly startup founders or women in business that are looking to you like the gold standard of success?
Um, what are my pieces of advice? I'm always a big proponent of solving a problem that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
So not going like too niche in what the problem is, or if it's a niche problem, ideally it's something that's like very premium that people would be willing to spend a lot of money on.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, think about the problem that you're solving and is it big enough to warrant the kind of business that you want to create? My next piece of advice would be there's no silver bullet. So if they're sitting there feeling like they haven't figured it out, it took me a couple years to figure out our first unlock. And then every year we're having to figure out unlocks. So I think
Right.
we often spend a lot of time feeling like there's something wrong with us and everyone else has it all figured out. And it's just like hard work on repetition and really building your resiliency so that when everyone else around you would give up and not keep going, you're the one that's like gonna keep powering through.
Yeah.
That's the biggest indicator of success, I think, above all else.
Yeah.
And the piece that I really think people need to spend the most amount of time of.
Yeah. That's amazing. Maybe we can do some rapid fire questions to
Sure.
end this off. What
Okay, let's do
is
it.
Joanna Griffiths' coffee order?
Oh, very boring. I like a regular coffee with double milk. It's like so
Love it.
simple.
Easy peasy. Favorite Toronto neighborhood?
I live in Moore Park and I love it here. So I'm going to say that.
Beautiful. Love Moore Park. What's the go-to Knix product you wear the most or recommend the most?
Mm, Either our underwear or currently our sculpt rib. I'm a big fan.
Amazing. What's another business leader you admire?
Um, Sarah Blakely from Spanx has been my icon and idol for many years. So she still holds that number one spot.
That's awesome. What's the best place you've ever traveled?
Palawan in the Philippines, I'm going to
Oh,
say.
when was
Yeah.
that?
2011,
So
2012.
cool. Amazing.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Well, my final question is I've called this show In Good Company. I'm in such
Mhm.
great company with you today, but I want to know, what does being in good company mean to you with your good company?
Hmm. I think feeling permission to show up exactly as you are. So sometimes that can mean that you're, wanting to have a really intense dialogue about something, or sometimes it can mean you just want to sit in silence next to someone, but who really appreciate and meet you where you are. And then finding friends who challenge you enough to keep pushing you forward, but who respect you enough to keep you grounded in who you are.
Yeah. No yes men.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Joanna. You are such a rock star. And I know everyone listening to this is going to take away so many key points. They're going to be writing down all the takeaways from you, my friend. Thank
Well,
you.
thanks for having me. Thank you. Lots of fun. Great to see you.